origin policy bypass using browser cache. So whenever you have these like three headers, like e tag tells you if the content is to be cached or not. And then if you have something like access control allow credentials false, which will like disable authenticate, or which will disable sending cookie or session data to cross origin request. But because this e tag is there, you could force the browser to get it from the cache. And that way, I'm not really like explaining what this bug is. I'm just telling you that all these simple bugs where something like this, I could just write a Elasticsearch DSL query, which will like look out for these three headers. And whenever I browse the internet and my burp, proxy catches one, it will just put me an alert. So this is the kind of thing that I wanted to build, where like I stopped looking for these low hanging vulnerabilities. Whenever you're bug bounty hunting, you will not actually look for this kind of stuff, right? Because there's like hundreds and thousands of them, and you can't like manually look out for each of them. So having such a system allows you to just focus on the like maybe not exactly high severity bugs, but focus on focus on the the complex part of the pen test. Yeah. So again, so after this, I'll just quickly tell you about uh, a very good bug I found recently. So the Paytm first, I found another like a couple of bugs similar to that bug, and this was something different. So I was helping a friend build a video calling app. So if you don't know, every video calling app uses WebRTC internally. So WebRTC is the name of that technology that like enables you to have communication, video communication. So so this is something that I do every time. Whenever I learn a new technology, I also trying to find out the security best practices and read up related bug reports. If I'm developing something in Fast API or some Express or Node.js, I'll just like see the landscape, see the current security, what sort of bugs could be there. And so when I was researching WebRTC, I came across this 2018 Slack bug. Turn servers allows TCP UDP proxying to internal network. So again, I like checked on in the tool I built if I knew a turn server. I had a turn server in my list. So what exactly is turn? I'll just detail. I'll go a little in depth about this bug because I think it's a cool bug. So suppose two people wants to talk to each other, client A and client B. They want to video call each other. Okay, so there's like three components that are involved that enables you to have video calling communication. So if A wants to communicate with B, first of all, A needs to know the address of B. So all this metadata, signaling between clients is done through a client server, signaling server. This is basically just, it just relays information from A to B. Okay. But normally when you are browsing internet or like normally when you are online, you usually have a NAT in between. This is basically a router. This could be a router. This could be any like intermediary. So when client A wants client B to connect to it, it needs to open up a port in this router. So if I'm sitting behind a Wi-Fi router, for example, and I have my internal IP address like 192.168.1 dot something, and I have a public address. Okay, so to all the users, only my public address would be visible. So if someone needs to connect to it, my router needs to know that this should be forwarded to this user inside this private network. So there's something called a stun server. It is used to open a port on the NAT. So client A just like creates this thing, TCP UDP connection to stun server, and by doing that, it opens up a port. Okay, and now this stun server tells this port and IP information to client A, which then sends it to client B. Okay, so normally client B can just like communicate with this public port directly. But what happens sometimes is this router uh, either like it firewalls UDP traffic, or it does not allow anyone except stun server to communicate, because this connection was open from client to stun. It will not allow client B to connect to it. There's like not all the routers do it, but like 10-15% of routers do it. So you need something called a turn server. What is a turn server? It's basically a proxy. Client A tells turn server that forward this data to client B and like give whatever it sends back. So it just acts as a proxy. Whatever client A is telling that, okay, send this data to client B, it will send it. The problem here is that the turn protocol, does not restrict the address you're trying to proxy to. So currently, client A tells give it the IP and port of client B to connect to, but there's nothing stopping client A or an attacker A from giving it private ranges. So what will happen is client A will tell turn server to connect to 127.0.0.1. So which it will be itself. Okay, so what this allows you to do is like uh, create network request inside the servers that is running turn server. Okay, it's if you know about SSRF, this is like SSRF, but it's vastly more powerful because you're not restricted to HTTP. You can like connect to any binary service, non-binary binary service. Okay, so uh, one critical way that an actual exploit would look like is you can ask, so if the turn server is running on AWS, you can ask it to connect to AWS metadata service and like basically own the AWS of that turn server. So yeah, back to how to exploit this bug. uh, this slack this Slack bug report mentioned a private tool. So the reporter used he had some sort of internal tool to like target turn servers. There was nothing on the internet to exploit it. So after like waiting around for like few months trying to you know get something working, I tried to build my own turn client, and that would involve reading RFCs. So RFCs are uh, basically these RFCs are like they describe the protocol, the actual protocol. So the turn protocol is actually an extension of stern, and if you want to do TCP, there's another extension. So how do you build such a thing? uh, you build the packet structure in Python and send it to a local server, and then like you can just put Wireshark in between and like analyze whether you're sending the right packets, or whether like if the length is wrong, or like all kind of protocol debugging. Wireshark, you can do it with Wireshark. So I started reading this RFC and like slowly building this client. This led to AWS metadata access, and then because I could like connect to any service, I could like just connect to a Redis instance and get RC. So this particular bug, I will not name the company, but the thing is, it got patched last week, and I haven't received my bounty, so I will not name the company. But this was traced back to a third-party component, and around 4 to 5 Indian banks were using the same third-party component to do their video KYC. So yeah, that was a pretty cool bug. And moving on, I'll tell you about some tips and tricks. So there's a lot of material online if you want to get into bug bounties. I'm not going to repeat that. I'm just going to focus on some things that I think I haven't found anywhere and are very important. So the thing with the first bug that I found on Paytm was there's like the only way to find such bugs is like just keep trying different endpoints, which there's a lot of people doing on the internet. And if you're like, if you want to like consistently get bug bounties, you need to like focus on critical bugs or like complex bugs, and instead of doing just black box trying every endpoint and all that stuff. To do that, I think what is most important is like getting into the client side source code, because the server side source code is not known to you most of the times, and it's very important to understand how the client side logic works. But this is a little difficult nowadays. So uh, those of you who don't know, a lot of front end, by a lot I mean like a good amount of front end is written in like Angular, Vue, React, JS. Okay, and these are like modular. You don't have a single JavaScript. These are called single page applications, where something like Webpack will turn all your different files and like put it down into a few JavaScript files. It will minify the code. It will like take the, so if you're including a library, it will just import that code. It will obfuscate it. So something very clearly visible like this, okay, gets turned down to like, after Webpack builds it, it will look something like this. So the variable names are gone, everything is gone. You can't read it. So if a majority of code written nowadays looks like this, how do you actually uh, reverse engineer this? So there's like few tips and tricks. First is, there's a website called jsnice.org. It's a research project, and what it does is it uses machine learning, and it renames those variables. It will like deobfuscate the files. It will try to figure out the type of variable. Okay, so it's a string, it's a boolean, it's like this class, and it will make this code a lot readable. So you can't like, it won't go back to like completely readable like this, but it will be so much better. But again, so running JS Nice will not like magically do all the work. After the JS code has passed through JS Nice, you like have to go through the code, and because like Webpack is built of modules, you need to like separate each of the modules from that file, and like build up the original folder structure of the, so to debug that. The second is finding additional JS code. So Webpack has a feature called lazy loading. Suppose you have a website and there's like admin section, there's a normal employee section, there's many sections, and because all these sites are single page applications, you don't want like all the code to like load at one time, because of, not because of security reasons, but because of performance reasons. So what Webpack does is it could use something like lazy loading, and it will split up your single JS files into chunks. So if you open the developer console of like any React app or some, you'll find these chunks and bundle and something like this. Okay, the trick here is, even though they are lazy loaded, you'll find references to the files that are not loaded in the bundle.js or similarly named file. So you can see the pattern here. There's like 2.chunk.833c. So this will always help you like find additional functionality. So yeah, the third thing that I want you all to learn is like learn JavaScript internals. So you not just how to develop in JavaScript, but there's like JS meta programming, where you learn about the JavaScript internal structures and all that stuff itself. One of the like cool part, cool like not cool part, but yeah, one of the cool things about here is there's a proxy object in JavaScript. I think it was added in years 2016, like 3-4 years earlier. So basically, what it does is it allows you to wrap an object, existing object, and allows you to override its properties. So suppose there's this empty dictionary, and I can put a handler to this dictionary. So whenever obj.hello, so whenever I'm trying to access the hello property, this get function will be called. Whenever I'm trying to set the hello thing, this set function could be called. So this could be used for a lot of debugging purposes. You could like wrap another object in proxy and log all the function calls. So it you can obviously edit your JavaScript code to do that, but when you have very complicated minified source like the one WebKit gives, you can like just take the complex logic out of it and like put it in a separate proxy object. So again, like this is for an existing new object that I'm creating, but you could like also iterate over this variable and like recursively set the proxy on all the objects, and in that way, even though your code will be like 10-20 times slower, but you can put any logic here. So suppose I want to check if if a function is called with any function is called with this parameter, like containing login or something, anything, I could put my reverse engineering what I'm trying to find in actual code logic here. uh, I think I'm short on time, so I'll just yeah, I think I'm over. uh, Again, this proxy object is also could be used to find prototype pollution bugs. If you don't know about prototype pollution bugs, I'm not going to tell you like in detail about it, but in the last few months there have been like plethora of prototype pollution bugs in JavaScript libraries and all that. So you can use that proxy object to like scan for these bugs. Again, I'm going to be open sourcing some tools. The turn exploiter, it will allow you to set like pick a turn server and then bind to an internal port, or you can like scan some IP, or like just send a HTTP request of this. I couldn't find any existing tools that would allow you to exploit open turn servers, so I'm going to be open sourcing this. And this recon and asset management tool, so this is, I don't know if you could like tell it from the demo, but this is like work in progress, and it's not even like 40-50% done. So it'll take like a couple of more months to do this, but I'll open source this as well. Yeah, so I'm done. Any questions?
Palash, I think we
You
can
can
move
like,
the yeah. I think we can move the discussion to our XVGL community. Then they will talk there,
okay,
right?
okay,
Yeah,
sure,
sure.
sure, sure.
Oh, okay, okay, cool. Yeah, you are live.
Hi everyone. Yeah. Am I audible? Uh, so hi everyone. I'm Sirisha Kotekalapudi and I work as a security program manager in Microsoft. It's a pleasure to be here, and I would like to thank Rahul and the entire CloudSEK team for inviting me. So today we'll be looking at the cybersecurity landscape this year. As we all know, over the last few years, the cyber attacks have increased in frequency and sophistication. And last year itself, we witnessed a surge in cyber attacks across the sectors. Some of the biggest data breaches are in on some of the most reputable companies. For example, Facebook had a hack that exposed over 540 million user records. Then there is Quest Diagnostics, which exposed 12 million patient records, and Capital One, in which 106 million user records were breached. So next, we had 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the organizations and individuals have adopted to new practices such as social distancing and remote working. But this has also given cyber criminals opportunity for exploitation. As we can look at the statistics, there has been a sharp spike in attacks, malware attacks, and ransomware related attacks. So the COVID-19 is being used by criminals to lure the unsuspecting. Let's look at the trends in the cybersecurity space that have emerged this year. So one of the biggest trends we have is the digital transformation leading to faster cloud adoption. So there is a standing
Sorry,
joke that we
Sirisha.
have that who led the digital transformation? Hello,
Sorry to interfere. Actually, you have a on the audio.
can you hear me?
Uh, Now, okay. The echo is still there.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So one of the things that we are looking into is the digital transformation that has led to the adoption. So we have this starting joke that who has led the digital transformation of the company, and COVID-19 has been the biggest one so far. So when we are looking at the digital transformation, the digital transformation which would ideally take place over 2 years was undertaken in like 2 months. So this is due to the remote work culture that has come in picture, and this has led to the faster adoption of cloud technologies. Now, the cloud technologies are a perfect platform and enabler for digital transformation. The capacity is easy to adjust, and obviously, the organizations don't have to worry too much about the administration of underlying infrastructure. But due to the hurry for adoption, there is lack of proper controls in cloud. As we can see in the numbers, the public cloud adoption number has drastically increased this year, but so has the number of data breaches. So what are the security cloud can go on?
Hello, hello. Sorry, Sirisha. I think you dropped off again. Actually, the voice was going out of that.
Sai, can you hear me now? Attacks, even if they don't lead to complete stopping of service, they can reduce the customer experience. And malware infections in cloud can be more deteriorating as the infection is more connected. Also, there are a lot of compliance violations in cloud, be it data compliance violations or anything or policy violations that the customers have created. So the another trend that we have observed is the increase in phishing, malware, and ransomware attacks. So COVID-19 has offered criminals a way to create more phishing mails and malware campaigns. So that will lead to a more number of people being infected and more number of infected computers and phones. As you can see at the data, there are increase during this period in number of malware and phishing sites being visited. And also there is a large number of spike in the coronavirus related phishing mails. So these are a few examples of phishing mails where the attackers have posed as a government entity or somebody that you would already know or have ministry or any of those entities to fool the users into clicking and downloading certain stuff, certain malicious stuff. So, what is the defense strategies that we can use for phishing? So, one of the top one is the user awareness, because ultimately it's the end user who is gonna click and open any suspicious link or any external media. So, the user should be aware what suspicious links looks like and what that they are not supposed to click it, and the external media that comes in the mails do not have to be downloaded. Backup and recovery strategies are something that are a key thing against ransomware attacks. Then we should also ensure that our software is vulnerability free and the patches are done regularly. Also, for the administrative functions, we should always stick to using the privileged accounts and apply good access control mechanisms. We can also do the content and whitelist filtering of mails so that the irrelevant content does not appear in the user inbox. Also, we can configure our endpoints more securely to allow access only from the trusted sources. We can also use threat intelligence solutions so that we can detect the malware and phishing campaigns early on and take necessary steps to prevent them from spreading further. So the next thing that we will be looking at is increasing usage of mobile devices. So we all the employees in companies nowadays access the corporate data from their smartphones, and people do download apps with no regard for security. And we all know about the Chinese developed app TikTok and the privacy concerns that are surrounding it. In 2014, in one of the researches conducted by Kaspersky, 3.5 million pieces of malware were discovered on more than 1 million user devices. And one of the mobile security surveys that Verizon has conducted has discovered that 40% of businesses have experienced a mobile related compromise, and 66% businesses have said that the business impact due to these breaches have been major. So, what are the security risks that are associated with mobile devices? So, one of the top ones is data leakage. So, we all download free apps from Play Store, App Store, and other third party app stores. So, these free apps, although they work as they are intended, but they can also collect user data and track the users. Also, we all of us have a habit of connecting to free Wi-Fi, which is insecure by design, and network spoofing, in which an attacker can create a fake access point for the users to connect to. Phishing attacks are somewhat more intense on the mobile phones because users have a habit of monitoring the mails in the real time. We also have out of date devices, broken cryptography, and cryptojacking attacks. Cryptojacking attacks are attacks in which your mobile device can be used for mining the cryptocurrency. Also, there is a poor password hygiene. So, what are the different strategies that we can employ from the corporate perspective as well as end user perspective? One of them would be a resilient authentication measures like multi-factor authentication. Then we can routinely update and back up our phones. Then we can block the suspicious apps and avoid using public Wi-Fi as much as possible. Then monitoring and wiping of devices, which can be done by corporates if there is sensitive data that is being accessed from mobile devices. Another thing that we will be looking at is the continued rise of artificial intelligence. So most of the commercial and business software that we use nowadays contains artificial intelligence and ML in some form. They analyze the data, they take actions, make predictions on the data they have. And AI is a huge enabler for cybersecurity because it can help in identification of new threats and responses so that we can block the attacks beforehand. But on the flip side of it, the same technology can be used by cyber criminals to develop more sophisticated attacks. So, what are the security risks that are posed by ML? So, all the AI-based tools that are there are available publicly and can be used to manipulate for the nefarious purposes. But again, this can be true for all the open source technologies that we have. Many of the powerful ML frameworks are available as a service and can help in development and testing of AI-based attacks at a very moderate cost. So bots that are powered by artificial intelligence can be used to find system vulnerabilities faster and exploit them in the real time. AI and ML is also used to create more effective malware and run customized phishing campaigns. I think the CloudSEK team already gave a demo long back that I had also attended how AI and ML can be used to create a more customized phishing campaign. Uh, yeah. So defensive AI, ML, how like this is the good side of AI and ML. So it can be used to identify anomalies and suspicious patterns because machine learning can simultaneously analyze the large data sets to do that, and it can also help in providing automatic updates to existing software based on the analysis. Also, the malware detection that is AI based is much better than the traditional malware analysis systems because it will look at characteristics rather than a specific signature. AI and ML can also be employed to automatically identify sensitive information, then classify information or any kind of unusual network activities as well. So as we can look at the infographics, it will highlight how it can help us in cybersecurity, how machine learning can be used in the cybersecurity. So another trend that we do have is IoT and the rise of IoT. So we do have more and more devices in the networks that are connected, and due to that, we have more risks associated with them. So there has been a sharp rise of IoT devices and connections because again everybody is at home and wants to be more connected to the entire world. So the impact of an IoT botnet attack, like if everyone knows Mirai botnet attack, those kind of attacks on consumer versus industrial devices is vastly different. And any attack on a consumer gadget can only be limited to a customer privacy issue, but if the same attack happens on a manufacturing device, it can have a significant production and safety cost associated with it. So, what are the security risks in the IoT? One of the main ones is the insecure deployment of those devices in a way that they are connected to internet and easily accessible from the internet. Then most of the IoT devices, or at least if they are coming from less known manufacturers lack security updates. And after a while, there are no security updates, so you are stuck on the same firmware version, which can have many vulnerabilities. Then there are devices that are shipped with no password or a standard hard-coded default password. And encryption is something that's not built into IoT devices. And IoT devices have many communication streams, and a vast number of them are unencrypted, which can lead to spoofing and further attacks. So, what are if we are using any IoT device, be it in the corporate network or for personal use, we can employ some measures for those devices. One of them would be changing and updating default passwords. And if we have IoT devices sitting in offices, we can maintain a separate corporate network from vendor managed and unmanaged IoT devices. Then we can, in the corporate networks, IoT devices can be blocked from communicating to the internet and outside the organization. And we can remove the unsupported operating system applications and devices from the network because many of these unsupported systems will have vulnerabilities that are exploitable, or we can learn or we can patch them so that they are more secure. So the last one that I have here is the implementation of 5G technology. So everyone has been looking forward to implementation of this technology as it will give superior bandwidth to everyone who's using it, be it businesses or consumers. But it will also lead to the explosion of data and number of connected devices. So 5G is expected to be as much as 100 times faster than the present systems and 25 times lower latency. And it can support more about 1 million devices in a square kilometer. So evolution and development of the 5G technologies is also going to lead to more security threats coming in. So what are the risks that we are looking when it comes to 5G? So 5G is largely an untested systems. So vulnerabilities of telco services and the underlying infrastructure of 5G can be expected. Although some security has been built into 5G, it's still new and it's still relatively untested. So we can expect vulnerabilities and attacks on the infrastructure coming. The communications towers are in closer proximity due to the short range of 5G technology. And this increases the risk that the triangulation of location of users can be done more precisely. And also due to increased interconnectivity, the service providers can have access to large data sets that are being sent by the user devices. Also, IoT devices are expected to occupy the same network bandwidth, and because IoT devices already have a ton of issues and how they are going to deploy it in the 5G system, how it's going to interact with the 5G and what design and unknown problems it's going to reveal, that is something that is yet to be discovered. So yeah, that is all. So thank you everyone. Thanks again to the CloudSEK team for giving me this opportunity. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah. Thanks, Isha. Actually, we can move all the discussion to our forum, right?